Hello, darlings.
Hello.
This is the Witch's Magic Murder and Mystery Podcast.
I am Kara.
I'm Megan.
And we're here with a what side?
It's a Tuesday episode.
Wow.
And that reminds me, we are taking the week of Memorial Day off.
Mm-hmm.
So there will not be an episode this Friday.
Right.
So just so you know, we're going to take a little break just to kick off the summer and have a little mini vacation.
Yeah.
But today we do have an episode.
Okay.
It's an old-timey one.
I love old timies.
I don't want to tell you anything
I like how
else.
we role reversed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. You did a missing person, and here I am doing historic.
Okay, wow.
Okay, we're talking about a lady named Martha Place.
Place, okay.
Martha Place was born Martha Gerritsen on September 18th, 1849.
Oh, we are taking it back.
Yes.
Wow, okay.
In Millstone, New Jersey. She went by Maddie.
Love it.
Which is a cute, light little nickname.
Yeah, for sure is.
It does not match who she becomes.
Oh,
she's not a cute, light person.
Oh.
I don't know a lot about Maddie's life up until she turned 23.
Okay.
But at 23, she had a head injury. A moving sleigh struck her in the head.
Stop.
And later, her brother said that Maddie was never quite the same after that.
Oh, I wouldn't be either.
I'm going to take a quick detour to talk about this head injury thing.
Okay.
Because I hear a lot about how, that person got hit on the head when they were a kid. Well, no wonder they became a murderer like that.
Aaron Hernandez.
Yeah. And I realize I don't really know how much of a correlation there is between those two things. So I did a little research. And I'll put these in the show notes, as always. But there's a 2018 study in Lancet Psychiatry, which states that traumatic brain injuries are a risk factor for earlier, more violent offenses in children and young people. And TBIs are also linked to poor engagement in treatment, in custody infractions, and reconviction. And then there's a 2014 study from the University of Glasgow, where they did an analysis of all available literature about serial killers and mass murderers. So books, journals, legal files, news reports, etc. Everything that was available at the time they did the study. Out of 239 murderers in the study, 21% were found to have suffered a definite or suspected head injury.
Oh.
But then it goes on to be like, of those 21%, a significant amount also experienced significant traumatic events during their childhood. So it's like, it takes more than just the head injury, which we kind of talked about in episode 171, where I did that deep dive where it's like, where did all the serial killers go?
Yeah.
And we talked about all sorts of factors that might be involved in creating a serial killer. So do I think that every child who has a head injury is going to become a murderer?
Right.
No. Is it one item on a long list of factors? Sure. So I just feel like that's a thing people get mad about. So I looked up more about it. And like I said, those studies are in the show notes.
Okay.
Okay, back to Maddie. She had that head injury at 23.
Right, which is super young.
Yes.
But also,
I mean,
in the
she's an adult.
1800s,
she's an old maid.
Yeah.
We don't know the extent of the injury. Like, I don't know if it was a traumatic brain injury. And honestly, I don't know that later, after she does what she does, her brother didn't just bring it up to try to have some sort of explanation.
Okay.
You know, like it's normal as human beings. We want a reason. And he could be like, well, she hit her head.
Yeah.
And maybe, I don't know what his medical training would have been. Honestly, he may have been. Yeah. Okay, so she goes on to get married and they had a son. But then either she left her husband or he left her. I saw varying accounts.
Okay.
Either way, she winds up single and she's forced to give her son up for adoption because she can't take care of him. She moved to Brooklyn and began working for a man named William Place.
Oh, last name sounds familiar.
Really? I bet you. A little foreshadowing.
Yeah.
He was a widower, and Maddie became his housekeeper, and later his wife, as Kara so astutely observed. That's when she became Martha Place, and she also became the stepmother to William's daughter, Ida. I've decided that Ida is one of those great old-fashioned names that you don't hear enough anymore.
I was literally about to say that.
It's a good name. Like all the best Disney villains, Martha hated Ida.
Oh, she probably did.
She thought William loved his daughter more than he loved her.
Oh, my gosh.
And she was incredibly jealous.
Oh, my gosh.
As Ida grew older, she grew more and more attractive. And apparently, Martha was not very physically attractive. So this just made her hate Ida more.
She sure did.
So Martha spent her days talking to mirrors, asking who's the prettiest. And then she
Fairest
locked
of them all.
Ida away in a tower.
And wanted her heart.
But seriously, doesn't it sound like Ida
for sure.
or like Martha is the inspiration for every Disney stepmother?
Yes. Mother Gothel.
Yes, that's who specifically I was thinking of. Okay, so Martha hates Ida. She has everything Martha never had, and Martha can't stand it.
Mm-hmm.
William had called the police at least once because Martha threatened to kill Ida.
Oh my gosh. And he kept her around.
Yeah. So this all comes to a head on February 7th, 1898, when an argument breaks out between William and Martha, and Ida took her father's side.
Okay.
After William left for
did.
work, of course she did.
Yeah.
After William left for work, Martha went to speak with her stepdaughter, and Ida slammed her bedroom door in her face.
Oh, no.
Ida is 17 years old at this point, so that's totally expected teenage girl behavior, especially in a fight with her stepmom who hates her.
Exactly.
Later, Martha told the police, "That made me feel so mad. I got some acid from my husband's desk, and I threw it into her face."
Why does the husband have acid in his desk? And, huh?
I had that same question, and I found the answer.
Okay, good.
William dabbled in photography.
Oh.
And back then,
you
they
had to
used
dip it, yeah.
acid to develop the film. So that's why he had it.
Wow.
So Martha's story is that she threw the acid in Ida's face and left the room.
What?
But an autopsy said otherwise. Doctors suspected that Martha went on to smother Ida while the girl writhed in pain, killing her.
Oh my gosh.
Then Martha goes and finds an axe in the cellar, and she brought it upstairs while she waited for William to come home from work.
Huh?
Now, at this point, they have a new housekeeper because she's not the housekeeper anymore since she's the wife. And she just keeps sending the housekeeper off on these like errands. Oh, just go do this, go do that. Don't come around the house, basically.
Oh.
So she's waiting for William to come home from work. And she says, "I was afraid he was going to attack me," she told police. "I took the axe upstairs with me. My husband came in afterward and I struck him with it."
What?
It's like, I thought he might be mad that I killed his daughter.
Oh.
So I needed to protect myself.
Gosh.
What else was I supposed to do? It's self-defense.
I had to protect me.
As the murderer
Yeah.
of the child. Thankfully, William did not die. After she struck him with the axe, he fell out into the street crying for help. And while he did that, Martha ran to the kitchen and turned on the gas, attempting to kill herself. This was unsuccessful. Police soon arrived and took her into custody.
She's wild.
It's a very wild, dramatic scene, right? Like she's got an axe. She was running to the
Acid.
gas. Yeah.
Axe, gas. Okay.
And then this goes to trial.
Okay.
It was, of course, a media
I am
sensation.
sure of it.
Newspapers reported all the details.
Mm-hmm.
Here are some of the quotes
Okay.
from the newspaper coverage.
Please
Are you
hit me
ready?
with them?
Okay.
Yes.
She was homely, old,
Oh.
ill-tempered, and not loved by her husband. I was like, damn.
Yeah, I'd say he doesn't love her anymore.
Good Lord. Her face is not pleasant. She looks like a woman who has spent most of her life fretting and worrying.
Oh, she had some frown lines.
Her face reminds one of a rat.
Stop it. What?
This was cold.
In a newspaper?
I mean, she did murder a child.
This is true.
And attacked her husband with an axe.
Wow. So somebody was just annoyed writing that, and they were like, her face reminds me of a rat.
She looks like a rat. She is homely.
Ugh.
Reporters also noted that Martha remained stoic throughout the trial, having pretty much no reaction through the whole thing, except for when her husband William took the stand.
Mm.
While he testified, it's reported that her thin lips, which I felt like was an unnecessary
Yes,
detail,
exactly.
they're just being mean again.
Yep.
Her thin lips parted in a sardonic grin, and she fixed her eyes upon him. That would be so creepy.
That's
like
terrifying.
she has not responded to the whole thing, and all of a
meant to
sudden she
kill
just
you.
smiles.
I meant to kill you.
Ooh. Martha was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to death, which makes Martha the first woman to be executed by electric chair.
Oh, my gosh.
There had been a couple others who were sentenced before her, but their sentences had not been carried out.
Oh.
So she becomes the first woman to be executed by electric chair, which is why she's the topic of this story.
Oh, my gosh.
The electric chair was a pretty new thing at the time. It had only been used 11 times in New York before this.
Oh. They're like, well, here goes nothing.
The first person in New York to die by electric chair was convicted murderer William Kimmler, and it hadn't gone smoothly.
Oh, no.
William had to be electrocuted twice before he died. Yeah. And Martha's lawyers, basically because she was the first woman, they reached out to then New York Governor Theodore Roosevelt.
Teddy!
And they were like, maybe you should commute her sentence because she's a woman.
Mm.
They were basically like, we've never executed a woman by electric chair before. why start now?
Right.
And Roosevelt was like, no, I'm okay with it.
No, I'm good. She did some bad things. And
He was basically like, my sympathies lie with the victim, not the murderer.
And I know how to ride a moose.
On March 20th, 1899, Martha went to the electric chair wearing a long black dress she had made herself.
Oh, she did.
Now, it's 1899, so again, she's the first woman, and executioners were like, how do we electrocute a woman?
Their makeup's different. Their insides could be a little
They
different.
got all that hair, all that long hair. And then how do we protect her modesty when we put the electrodes on her ankles?
Oh,
Heavens.
don't expose them.
My stars. So they cut her hair so they could place the electrodes on her forehead.
Okay.
And then they slit her skirt on the sides so that they could place the electrodes without exposing her ankles.
Oh, my
They were that
gosh.
concerned. Which, okay, I find something about that to be sweet because
Yeah.
she's a convicted murderer and doesn't, like, all descriptions of her are,
Right.
she is not a pleasant person.
Yeah, but they're like, we're going to,
But they wanted to protect her dignity. They didn't
Yeah.
have to
yeah,
at all.
we're going to
They
keep her
could have not
honest.
done that. Yeah.
Huh.
Her last words were, God help me. And then she died by electrocution. She was 49 years old.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
I started looking into, I was curious about, like, why did they even start using the electric chair?
Yeah.
Because, of course, now that's seen as inhumane.
Not a
So
thing.
what made us turn to that? But when you think about it, before this,
Hanging.
they were hanging. And a lot of the times there were failed hangings where,
Right.
like, the person wouldn't die.
Yeah.
And so to them, the idea that you could kill someone quickly with electricity was more humane than the alternative they
Yeah.
had. And I guess now we've graduated. If you want to say the death penalty is humane at all,
Mm-hmm.
it would seem that maybe the lethal injection is, although I'm
Right. I
I'm
don't-
questionable about
It's
that.
on the fence. Yeah.
I'll be honest, my feelings on the death penalty change all the time.
Right.
You know, there's some murderers that I'm like,
Give it to them. They deserve everything.
And I think the whole problem is it's more of my issues with the justice system, right? Like, if you could be sure that every
yeah.
person is put to death was guilty,
Mhm.
it'd be a lot easier to have peace
Yeah.
with that decision,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But there's so many innocent people who have died.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And it's just, it's hard to support something when you're like, gosh,
Yeah,
but
that's
what
why
if
they
we're
have
wrong?
that. What is it called? The Innocence Project?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's it.
Okay,
That's our
well,
story
Thanks for that.
of Martha Place.
Wow, Martha.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
We hope you guys have a great week.
Yeah.
And we love you.
so much.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.